Thank you for joining us on the Sport on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary Al Smith. We begin with the Ghana Premier League, which began this weekend, and week one's results saw just 11 goals scored, with Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko being the only side to get goals away from home. Let's to remind ourselves of the way it's looking so far. So we saw Adriana not play because of their African exertions. Wafa played 1-1 with Asante Kotoko. 11 Wonders 1-1 with Hearts of Oak. Ash Gold played 1-0 against Wa All Stars. Ebusa Dwarfs played 1-0 against Brekum Chelsea. Dreams FC played 1-0 against Sharks. The same scoreline was recorded at the Takwa and Aboso Park, 1-0 against Karela. Intala is won. The biggest scoreline of the weekend, 3-0 against Bichem United. In the CAF Champions League, Adriana, who could not play in the Ghana Premier League because they were in Algeria, lost. And the coach of the side, Yusuf Abubakar, has attributed the elimination of the team to inclement weather.
Match was very tough. They were determined, and there was a lot of tricks, of which our players were determined to stand against them. It was good for us in at least the first 20 minutes, and the game plan that we went in was working perfectly. Unfortunately, the weather continued to be cold, and the first day we trained on their pitch, and that was on Saturday. The weather was 4 degrees Celsius, and then unfortunately on Sunday it was worsened to 0 degrees. And as it was like that, then it started drizzling. And drizzling in such a weather, the water does not just run on the body, it sticks, and then it affects a lot of things. So the weather also contributed to the heavy defeat, and it makes the field very slippery. And they have been used to their weather, so they did not see anything wrong with that. And coupled with unfortunate officiating that we also experienced, we were surprised that there are so many things that the referee ignored. Those things were very important that we could have given. We could have taken the chance of that, and it would have been an advantageous to us.
So the 16 qualified teams to the group stage, even though Adriana didn't make it, are as follows. Let's take a look at them now. Yes.
Through to the group stage of the African Champions League. Some of the highlights include AS Togo Port and Difa El Jadida, who handed the biggest upsets on Sunday. AS Togo Port became the first Togolese side to make it through to the group phase after knocking out Sudan's Al Hilal. And Morocco's Difa El Jadida defeated former African champions AS Vita of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They had a 2-all draw in Kinshasa to win 3-2 on aggregate. The draw for the last 16 will take place on Wednesday in Cairo.
Internationally, there was a big press conference happening in Morocco. As you know, the 2026 World Cup is being contested by an African country, that's Morocco, and the joint bid from North America involving Mexico, the United States, and also Canada. This weekend, Morocco met the world and told them what they wanted to do and their plans concretely for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. 2 journalists who have been following it will be joining me now to look at the way things went and what we can learn from the press conference in Morocco. Rob Harris is a sports reporter for the Associated Press, and also we have Callum McCarthy, who works for the Sport Business Journal or magazine. Thanks guys for joining me from London.
Thank you, Gary.
Fantastic. So let me begin with you, Rob. In a word, just give us an idea of what key points Morocco told us about at this press conference. Hello, Rob, can you hear me?
I think he may have dropped out, but I can take this one on.
Okay, yes, Callum, please take it over.
I'll go ahead. So essentially what we learned is that $12.6 billion of public funds and $3.2 billion of private funds will be pumped in by the Moroccan government and private companies in order to get Morocco ready for the World Cup. They will need to build 9 new stadiums. They will need to refurbish others. And it's a lot of money and not a lot of time to build 9 new stadiums to host the World Cup. And it's not just that, it's the infrastructure. Public transport in cities like Fez and Meknes is not fantastic. Healthcare will have to be reformed. And this comes in a country where in rural areas, a lot of people don't have access to public transport, to education, and in extreme cases, electricity and clean drinking water. So all of this is at play within the bid, let alone whether Morocco will be able to deliver on its promises.
So what happens is that where you're concerned, I mean, Morocco, would you say from your professional opinion that the United States bid has more in hand than Morocco, who are talking in hypotheticals, really?
It has more in hand. It has, I mean, the US has enough stadiums to host the World Cup on its own. It already did in 1994. Mexico also has enough stadiums to host the World Cup on its own. And Canada has not enough football stadiums, but enough to contribute. And it also has recent experience in hosting global sporting events with the Vancouver Olympics. The political side of things is slightly different, and I'm sure we'll come on to the voting.
Yes, we will come on to that as well. Now, why did they call this press conference at this time? Why do you think they did so? Because we know that the North American bid is having its own problems. People have said that Donald Trump's rhetoric at the rest of the world is not helping and all that. Why do you think Morocco found the need to do this at this time?
Well, we're 3 months away from the voting. The voting will take place, I think, on June 13th in Moscow. I think 3 months is a sweet spot for Morocco to put forward their ideas, flesh their ideas out, but also not face too much scrutiny. We've known that the US and Mexico and Canada have been bidding for some time, and journalists around the world have been able to look into that bid and look into various cities and their ability to host the World Cup. Morocco are delivering a bid based on promises and hope and a legacy for the citizens of its country. And 3 months is just the perfect amount of time for them to be able to get that message over without too much negative blowback before the vote.
Excellent. Rob, if you can hear me, we can see you twiddling with the speed. It's looking just fine. Can you hear us, Rob Harris?
I can. The connection.
Fantastic. So Callum has made the point about why Morocco has needed to make this bid. Do you think, in 1 minute, do you think that Morocco can win the World Cup bid in 3 months?
Well, the way the voting has changed makes it wide open as long as Morocco gets to the vote, because of course the way the FIFA task force is now in place, if Morocco does not prove it can host the tournament, it could be struck off from voting even before they get to June the 13th. But then it's all up for grabs, because for the first time in around 3 decades, the whole Congress vote, and it's going to be this open vote. And while it might seem it's a good thing for democracy to know who everyone voted for, that could really lead to some perhaps fearing repercussions if they don't vote in a particular way. I mean, that one thing might particularly guarantee the whole of Africa goes behind Morocco, when maybe in case some other countries have other ideas. But you do have to have a caution. There is Saudi Arabia even just saying in the last 24 hours that it might not necessarily vote Morocco. And I think what it all comes down to is the US, the North America bid, will deliver more capital for FIFA. That seems...
Okay. All right.
But
Rob, we've exhausted a bit of our time, so we'll call you later. But many thanks for your very succinct analysis. Rob Harris, who works for the Associated Press, and also Callum McCarthy, who is a sports business reporter. That's the sport for now. We'll be back in a couple of hours with the Football Show.